Hey, alrighty. Well, here we are again for another illustration masterclass, and I'm glad you're here joining me today. This is one of those topics that I love to talk about because it's one of the simple, basic things that we like to try and nail. And every now and then it's really fun to go back to some fundamentals and to really feel our way through doing something that is really essential if you want to do character design or portraiture or really just draw comics or anything, frankly. And that's drawing heads. So, you know, it's People like to kind of wing it sometimes, but what I think is great is to have a little bit of a formula in the back of your mind, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of them out there, and there's lots of good advice, lots of bad advice. What I'm going to try and give you today are some just simple basic pointers that should take you to a place where you feel a lot better about tackling drawing a head, whether it be a human head or a monster head or anything else, because a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about today is going to apply to pretty much any head. Okay, so there you go. Heads, that's what we're doing today. Let's say hi to some folks in the chat. We have Wade. Wade. I know Wade knows how to draw heads. Wade's a great illustrator, folks. Yatagarasu. Hello. Nice to see you. And Laura and Afroha joining us again. Hello, hello. Nice to see you. What's up, Jack? Nice to see you as well. I see Steve is here and Sydney. Mwendwa, thank you for being here. Folks, tell us where you're watching from. Love to know where you're from. If you're watching over on Behance, which is great, thanks for joining me, you can see the chat, you can read everything that's going on. If you're watching elsewhere, YouTube, Twitter, or anything like that, just know that I'm reading the chat over on Behance specifically, so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to adjust my camera here. I've got this new Nexigo. This thing is it's a beast, but it's really heavy, and it tends to just kind of fall on my little stand here, so I have to figure that out. Gotta get a more robust stand. All right, here we go. Let's move over to Photoshop. It's where I like to do a lot of my drawing, as you all know. And there are so many choices brush-wise. What do I do? Brushes, brushes, brushes. But for today, I think I want to keep it simple. You know what's nice to kind of sketch around with are things like markers or like charcoal and stuff like that. Yeah, so I think what I might do is work on some markers. Let's do that. Let's do that. All right, let's see here. Now there are markers, excuse me, in the marker brush sets. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to look through the old Mega Pack and see if I can find a little something in there. Something tells me I'm going to find something maybe in the ink box that will work nicely. It's kind of a marker. Let's see here. Lots and lots of choices. I like those rough inkers too. Those might be kind of nice, but I don't want to add too much juice. Oh, you know what I just realized? We had a marker, I think, in the Keith Haring brushes. Now, did I load those? Here they are. Look at this, Keith Haring. Got a chisel marker and a square marker. Well, let's go for this square marker here. Let's see how that little puppy feels. Gonna get a little color here. Oh, I love it. I love it. All right, make it a little smaller. There we go. Okay, folks, let's get cracking. We're drawing heads today. We're drawing heads. Now, I don't know why I just switched my brush. I wasn't paying attention, sorry. Come here, you. There we go. All right. Don't forget that your face, your head, it's symmetrical. There's symmetry involved, isn't there? Yes. Now, this is one of the easiest things that you can remember when you're drawing heads, and one of the best things you can always keep in the back of your mind, your own head, because if you do just this one simple thing, I promise you your drawings are going to change overnight. And that is this. Look at that. I just drew a line. Big whoop, everybody says. Kyle, why are we so excited about that line? I'll tell you what this is. This is my vertical center line. That's what that represents, okay? The vertical center line. And when I say that, what I mean is, you know, here's my human head, okay? Bump, 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 bump. I mean this right here, a line down the center, okay? Now on each side of that line, you have features, and those features are symmetrical, okay? So that means, you know, got a little eyeball over here, a little eyeball over there, okay? And one side of the nose over here, one side over here, okay? Make a little triangle for the nose just to keep things simple. Little corner of the mouth, boom, boom, righty? And of course, that's your little ears right there. So this symmetry is so vital in getting yourself a good head drawing. Not only that, but I'll tell you what, the one thing other people can see in a drawing that's wrong is faces, more than anything. Because it's what we look at all day. We talk to people, we look at their face, we watch movies, we see faces, we see TV, we see faces, we read, we see faces in picture books, etc. And so since we're so familiar with faces, if something's a little off, something's a little wonky, we will notice it. So one of the things you want to get right is the symmetry of the features. Now, if you do that, you're already well ahead of the game and you're on your way to a much better drawing than if you were to, say, for example, start drawing an eye over here, start drawing an eye over here, start drawing a nose, start drawing a mouth, right? And then you drop in a symmetry line and go, whoops, that doesn't work. And there's too much over here on this side and all that business, okay? So that is lesson number 1. Get yourself a nice line of symmetry. But Kyle, I'm not always drawing faces that are completely head on. What do I do if I'm drawing a 3/4 view or somewhere between front and 3/4 or between 3/4 and profile? What do I do? What do I do? Lots of things you can do. You move the center line and then you change the features around it. Hey, more folks joining us. Just want to say hello before we keep on going. Hello, Cornell. Nice to see ya. Thanks for joining us. Jordan, what's up, Jordan? Jordan, new member of the team. So glad you're here with us. Nice to see you. Umacorn, how you doing, Umacorn? Umacorn, I don't have any, what was the name of that bird you wanted me to draw on the Draw Along show? It was some kind of stork. Boy, was it a funny looking animal. All right, Shoe Bill? Am I getting it right? Yeah, okay. Anyway, all right, so back to our work here. So what does that mean? Okay, so with the center line here, now what happens if I turn the head 3/4 view? Well, that simply means this, and this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about things in terms of boxes, okay? So I want you to imagine that the head is simply this, okay? It's a rectangle. It's a little taller than it is long when we're looking at it. Taller than it is wide, pardon me, when we're looking at it from the front, okay? And I want you to say, okay, well, great, this is that little center line. In fact, I'll use another color just to keep it separate. There we go. There's our center line, okay? Get rid of this for just a sec. All right, now this is the box looking straight at us. Now, if I take that box, right, and I move that box, by rotating it slightly, all right? And I'm gonna turn it towards the left, okay? So here we go. Remember your perspective, right? So I'm moving it this way now. All right, now, here is what our box looks like. Okay, there we go. So I've taken that face, that head, and I've rotated a little bit, okay, to the left. So there's our center line again. All right, we're gonna just throw that in there. Now, between the corners of this facade here, okay, I want you to remember this rule. This is really good math geometry rule. If I draw a diagonal from this corner to this corner and a diagonal from this corner to this corner, I'm not gonna get what is the visual center. We're gonna get the mathematical center here, right there. All right, and there is my center line. All right, now what happens is the features on the left side of the face, okay, wind up getting crunched in a little bit. Okay, there's a little less space here than there is here. This is a little wider than this is here. All right, now if we take that to a bigger extreme, we do this. We say, okay, we're gonna move the head like this. All right, now this is the head we're drawing, okay? And then we grab our center line. It's gonna be about here now, okay? Get sure, there we go. And if I can double check myself there and see if I kind of got that right. Yeah, it's about right. Now that means the features on this side, right? Look how much more space I have here, from here to here versus from here to here, okay? Things are crunched even more, correct? And that just continues to go as you move towards a profile. So as long as you recognize that you have things that are going to be lined up across this center line, okay, all you have to do is remember that these lines, okay, being that they are parallel to one another, thanks to the rules of 1 point, 2 point, and 3 point perspective, etc. If I travel back with these, let's see if I can draw straight lines here. It's challenging, but I can do it. I can do it. Eventually, they're going to hit their little point here on the horizon line. Okay. Every other line that's parallel to these is going to travel back to that horizon line as well. Okay. Now, so if you have things like, for example, the eye line, which sits roughly in the center of the face, okay, then you know that one eye has to sit here and one eye has to sit here, okay? And corners of the mouth, right? Following along that same way, nose, eyebrows, and then we travel back and place the rest of our head in here. And this is why I like this box idea, because what I like to think about with the head is that you have a front plane and side planes. Make sense? Front plane, side planes. All right, and on that front plane, what we're looking at, actually bring that back and just slide it on up. There we go. On that front plane, we are going to see certain features, okay? And then other features we're going to see on the side planes, okay? And the front plane is a little probably smaller than you think, or like at least what I mean to say is there are areas that you're going to see on that front plane that you think are on the side planes, but they're not. Those are side planes. All right, so here's what I want you to notice, okay? Let's get this all set up for you here. All right. Here is a model of the head for you with the front-facing planes, okay? And I'm just gonna color this in a little bit. Like this. All right, now the rest of this stuff is side plane goodness, okay? So we're gonna just knock that in like this. And if you feel along your own face, okay, from right about here where that cheekbone pops out, okay, just underneath your eyeball, all right, so you've got your eyeball and underneath you can feel a protrusion of the cheekbone there, just push into your skin. From there, if you draw down towards the corner of your mouth, okay, from here to here, this whole area, okay, this whole section of your face here, feel where your hand is. Is the back of your hand facing forward, or is it facing off to the side? That's my question to you. And if anybody tunes in right now and sees me doing this, I swear they're gonna think I'm such a loon, but check it out. If you're doing this, okay, or if you're doing this, what is the back of your hand doing? It's facing the side, and that just proves to you, my friends, that that is side plane. Right here, that whole little chunk of your face, side plane, side plane, side plane. Do the same thing on your temples right here. Now this is your forehead in the front, right? But if you push here, all the way to the corner of your eyebrow right here, that whole section, side plane, okay? Looks like I have a toothache, says Gareth. I think you're right, it does look like that. Hey Tarek, thank you for joining us. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Uh-oh, somebody's eating something too hot and they burn their mouth. Salsa, maybe? Please don't do that during my show. I don't want people getting injured. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, so look. Side plane, side plane, side plane, and side plane. Okay, how about here? A little bit of side plane there. a little side plane there, right? Because of the sides of the bridges and wings of the nostrils there. Okay, good to know. So how much real stuff do we have facing us directly? Just this bit here, okay, the little light blue area I've left intact there for you. Now, that's what happens over here. So right here, I've got all that side plane goodness, right? And here too. A lot of side plane goodness. Okay, side plane right there. And then here is where you got some front plane right there, some front plane. Okay, so now what we're really thinking about is we're thinking about the head kind of in these sculptural terms. We're thinking about it in these three-dimensional terms, dimensional, all right? And this is a good thing to keep in mind when you're drawing faces, is that faces are not like a plate. It's not like a paper plate where you draw eyes and a nose and a mouth on it, and it's a round shape and that's it, it's flat. No, of course not. It's got lots and lots of dimension, but we want to simplify that to the simplest possible model, okay? So we're looking at two things here. Center line, this is vital, right, for keeping things symmetrical when drawing a face. And thinking about that at all times. Then traveling across that center line to line up our features, okay, so that they all line up properly, right? Eye, bottom of the nose, mouth, right? That kind of deal. This is the important stuff here. All right, so let's take this now, slide it on up over here. And now that we have these things in mind, let's walk back a few steps and let's look at, with the center line and with this, this box, sort of the general proportions that we want to talk about before we move on again to this 3D model and get a bit more in depth with that. So we'll start here with a circle, okay? There we go. Now with this circle, all right, I'll make this a little smaller. I'm gonna get a bit more nitty gritty here. There we go. Is it a perfect circle? No, don't worry about that. You may have seen names like Loomis, right? The Andrew Loomis head. We've seen this model before. He's given credit for this specific method of drawing the proportions of the human head. This is not to say that Andrew Loomis invented this or anything like that. These proportions and these ideas, I'm sure, were floating around long before, or certainly in his immediate vicinity amongst other artists and so on. But he just did a good job of kind of putting it down on paper and made a few great books that I highly recommend you check out. Drawing the Head and Hands, Figure Drawing for All It's Worth. These are some good books. But in the Loomis model, which looked at very, very simple model of this, you have a circle, and all you do is you bisect it, okay, like this horizontally, okay, and then you do the same vertically. Drop that line low like this so you have some room to move down, because what you're really doing here is you're kind of drawing a really simple representation of the cranium, okay, that part of the skull that houses the brain, kind of an important bit of tissue there. Got the brain, and then you've got the upper part of your teeth and everything else over here, the ocular cavities and nasal cavity and so on. That whole chunk of the skull. Then the jaw is a separate part, right? That's the part that's hinged and that can move. And it's the reason I'm talking to you right now, is my jaw's moving. But this is that cranial mass, the cranium. And we represent it with a circle, right? Now, Loomis's idea was that generally you're going to shave off, okay, about, if I were to look at the total height from the top of the circle to the bottom of the circle, okay, I want to kind of imagine that what is up here, this distance, okay, which is going to actually represent from the top of the cranium down to the quote-unquote hairline, which is hard to see on a bald guy like me. But that distance is sort of kind of the distance you'd get if you were to draw basically a square inside of this circle. Okay, see that? You can just kind of visualize that. You don't have to actually draw it, but just kind of imagine roughly those proportions. And then that's what you do is you kind of shave off, those bits there, all right, from the circle. That's kind of the idea. And so what really that means is these bits kind of fall away, and what you're left with, if I could just erase them here. In fact, what I'll do is I'll use an eraser that's not so heavy and perfect there, because I want to have a gradual, here I'll use the natural edge, that's a beauty, like this. So this way I can erase, but you can still see where I've been. See that? You can still see remnants of it. It's nice. So we know what we're doing here. Okay, those are like the sides of the cranium, sides of your head, those bits you can touch, because really our heads are not circles up at the top of the cranium, right? If you look at a skull, all right, you've seen skulls before. What's that shape you get? Well, it's kind of like this, right? This is kind of the shape you get with a skull. Looks like that, right? And then you got that jaw right there. So you see how this is sort of a more straight up and down kind of a deal, not a circle, okay? That is the reason for this. All right, so that's kind of the Loomis start. It's a circle, he shaves off the bits on the sides there, and he has these lines bisecting both horizontally and vertically. Now I could have done a little bit of a better job here, so I'll try and correct that just a bit. There we go. We want it to be a bit more symmetrical there. There we go. All right, now what do you do next? Well, this is the really simple, lovely thing about this method. Once you've got this kind of square here in the middle of the circle, you're left with this area here, okay, this area here, right, these 4 bits. And what he does is say, okay, look, just take the height of this, which should be equal to the height of this, okay, 1, 2, and just take that distance and drop it down once more, 3. And he then says, and that'll give you basically the bottom of the jaw right there. Blub, 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 blub. And there you go. And don't forget to say blub, blub when you draw. Okay, so now let's lighten all this up. I'm just going to erase away a little bit of that for you. So now what? Well, look, now I got the basic proportions of the skull, right? Got the top of the cranium there, bottom of the jaw, here are the side planes right there. So what do you do with all this stuff? Well, you do have this line that you drew originally. Now, this line here, you might think, oh, that's the eye line, right, Kyle? It's the eye line. No, it's not the eye line. The eye line is actually pretty much, as I said earlier, located between the top of the cranium and the bottom of the jaw, somewhere in that vicinity, okay, kind of in the center there. And so since we've already done all this work to create top of the cranium and bottom of the jaw, well, all I have to do then is say, all right, well, here's the top of that, here's the bottom of that, okay, here's the total height of that. Well, where's the center for that? Out there. So I can just draw a line straight across like that. Straight across or across? I think the word's across, Kyle. Holy Christmas. All right, so this is going to be my eye line, okay? There you go. And if you look at it just like this, I haven't done anything except add a couple of dots there, right? Hey, guess what? If you show that to somebody, if you show them this, right away their brains are going to jump to, well, I recognize a face. I see a face there because those proportions are what we recognize, okay? Thanks, Wade, for throwing in those titles of the books I mentioned. That's correct. Correct. Oh boy, I think I missed something. If only I had a brain, says Z. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. It's got to be there, and I'm sure it's a good one. All right. And McCorn, thank you for saying blub blub. You're right on it today. All right, so, but Kyle, what does this mean then? Why did we draw that line? Why did we bisect that circle originally horizontally? The reason for that is, well, guess what, gang? This is the brow ridge. Okay, this is that ridge that you can feel under your eyebrows, right? You know how there's that start of the ocular cavity at the top. It's that part right here up top where you go from your forehead or suddenly there's a dip. All right, see this? Forehead, and there's a dip inwards. And you've got, this is from the side here. We're looking from the side, okay? There are those ocular cavities there, right? And the eyeballs sit nicely in there. There's an eyeball right there, right? Eyeball. And here's that skull, and then, whoa, cuts in that way. And then you have that nasal bone right there before you get to that soft tissue, cartilage, and all that business right there for the rest of the nose, okay? That's what we're looking at right there. So this area, this spot here, blammo, that is what this represents, okay? So basically what we have is thirds, remember? So third number 1, the top third, is the distance, okay, we're measuring from the hairline to the brow ridge. How about third number 2? What does this represent? Any guesses out there? What do you think that could be? What about this third one? What about this third one? Well, if you just look at it, it should kind of really leap out at you what it is, because it just looks like what it is, okay? It looks like the thing that it is. And the answer is this spot right here is the part of the nose that goes from the ball right to where it changes direction again. You go to the very, very lowermost part of the nose that reconnects with the face. Okay, there's a protrusion there of the nose, but as it reconnects with the face, that spot right there before you get to the septum right here, that's what that spot represents, okay? And the reason I'm being very specific about this, why am I saying, oh, you know, it's this spot where it reconnects? Why am I not just saying the bottom of the nose? Because be careful, people sometimes confuse this with the ball of the nose. And if you look at people's noses, from profile especially, you will see a lot of variety in the shape of the nose. It could be this. Whoop. Okay, that could be someone's nose. Could be more sort of upturned. Okay? And then this is our magic spot right here. That's the part we're measuring from. Okay, but you might also look at someone's nose and see a shape like this. Okay? And if you see that, where's the magic spot? Is it here? Oh, look, now it is the bottom of the ball of the nose. Okay, is that where we want to measure from? We have to be so careful not to do this. It happens to work out in this case for us. Lucky us. Does it work out here? Oh no, look at the distance there. We would have been off. Okay, so you really want to watch out for that. So the real spot we're talking about here is that part where the nose ends and meets the face again, the surface. Before you have the septum, which is that area between the nose and the mouth. Okay, so then of course that bottom third is the distance between that part of the nose, if you want to call it top of the septum, that's fine, to the base of the jaw. All right, so now I'm taking a long time to explain this, but you will see at the end, after we've gone through this, we'll do a quick version of it, and you see this really is a simple model and a very easy one to follow, and also such a good thing to keep in the back of your mind whenever you're drawing faces, heads, etc. And don't worry about it being too formulaic, because I'll show you how to stretch it and pull it and play around with it and not make it, you know, so every face you draw looks the same. Now that what remains for us to do are a couple things. One, place the mouth. You may think, well, I'll just go from the middle, okay, right here, and put the mouth in. And that'd be nice, but it's incorrect. What really happens if you look at the average human face is you're really going to draw the line where the lips meet one another, okay, about a third of the way down, okay, from here to here, okay, so about here. And the reason for that is, well, you got to have room for the jaw, and you've got to have room for the lower lip and all that stuff. And I like you to just think of it like this. Just put a little circle in there for yourself, okay? And you may have seen models that do this, you know, like a modified version of come on, help me out. I'm having trouble remembering things. I just taught portraiture this spring, and I just can't remember the name. The other head drawing model, what's it called? Help me. It's a lot more complex. The Asaro head I have behind my shoulder there, I don't know if you can see it on camera. If I move this way, you can probably see it in the corner there. The James Asaro head is Riley head, the Riley head. Frank Riley, shame on me. The Riley method uses all these beautiful curves and lovely organic passages and things like that. And there is a nice circle or oval down here for the chin that they draw, so that you get this space where you have that protrusion of the jaw there under the lower lip, and the shape right here, the shadow shape. That's a nice way to do it. And then, of course, you've got your upper lip right here, and you're good to go. All right, now we start to get into where things align. Okay, now we know there's symmetry, right? But here are the things get really fun. Okay, so between this center line and the outer edge of the head, what I like to do is just roughly estimate that that's about where I'm going to put an eyeball. Okay, or pardon me, an iris. Yeah. If you want to really be accurate, what you do is, you find that point halfway and you just move slightly inwards, just slightly, like this. See that? I'm just moving towards the center, a hair, just a hair. Okay? Because that's going to be a little more accurate, just a little more accurate. All right? If you want to be a perfectionist about it, you draw a circle around that. And what does that represent? Well, there is your eyeball. Okay? Why would I bother drawing an entire eyeball? Why draw a whole circle? We don't see that when we look at somebody, unless it's a, Night of the Living Dead kind of situation. The reason is it gives you some structure, gives you some things to play around with, right? So if I zoom in on that, what I can do is by having this whole thing here, it makes it a lot easier for me to figure out, oh yeah, how big is that upper lid, and how far across does that go, okay? And the thing to keep in mind when you're doing this very simple model is I've got a circle here, I've got a circle here. The distance between those two circles and the size of those circles, what you should wind up with is a circle roughly the same size in between them. If you've got that, if you can easily do that and knock that in, you're in the right zone, okay? You're kind of doing it right. Do I publish any books for the teaching of the basics of drawing? No, Tarek, and I've wanted to do books forever, but I don't have time. Besides, there are already so many fantastic books out there. What would I do, There's so many good ones. Hey, just, that gives me an idea. I'm going to disappear from the camera for a second. Whoop. Goodbye, and hello. Here's a book for you. Look at this. This is Figure Drawing, Design and Invention by Michael Hampton. Love this book. Got a great section in here on drawing heads. Marveloso. Okay, lots of goodies in there. Check it out. Am I blocking the microphone by holding the book up there? Great book. Gonna disappear again. Hold on. Figure drawing for all it's worth. Naked people, watch out. You're all adults. Okay, this book has another great section in it on drawing the head. See if I can find it here. Beep, ba, 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 ba. Let's see. Oh, it's somewhere towards the front. All kinds of good proportions and goodies in there. There are lots of other books you can check out. There's one by Bernie Hogarth. It's a little more kind of crazy, extreme, but fun to look at. So anyway, but yeah, check out the Loomis. Check out the book by Michael Hampton. These are good books. All right, so moving on. The reason I'm placing the eyes here now, we're feeling good about that, is because here's a little trick you can do. If you drag down from the inside, okay, the inside side of the iris. So here's the inside of the iris. Here's the outside of the iris. When I say inside, I mean the side closest to the bridge of the nose, okay? This one. If you draw a line down from there, and again from here, you should find the corners of the mouth. Isn't that convenient? See how that's starting to look like a face? Everything looks like it's sort of where it should be, okay? This is pretty fun to do this. Yeah, so that's a good one. And then here's another one. From the inside corners of the eyelids, okay? Upper eyelid there where it becomes your tear duct. Just draw a line not, from there, do that. And what do you get? Hey, roughly the wings of the nostrils right there. And there you have that underside of the nose there, that plane right there, okay? Isn't that convenient? Right there. And then here, look at the center line. Remember that center line for the eyes? Right about there is where you find, okay, beginnings of the bridge of the nose, right there. Just connect that down like this. Okay, up we go, and in we go, up we go, and in we go. And here you're getting structure of the nose there, right? This is our side plane here for the nose, side plane for the nose, right? Underside of that mouth right there. And then from the corner here, look at this, I can just go beep, like so. Those nice curved lines, and these are definitely borrowed from the Riley method, you know, and I love them. I love those rhythms, they're fun. But look what that gives me. It gives me this nice opportunity to just to help myself understand planes of the head there. There's some side planes there. Isn't that nice? You don't have to do all this stuff. I'm just kind of taking it to another level here just to get a little fancy with you. A little bit of fancy stuff here. All right, now here, okay, you've got your brow ridge, right? Now, you know, your eyebrows move because they're on your skin, and you can move your skin. You can move it with the muscles under the skin. You can move your face, and what happens? Certain things stay put, but others don't. And so your eyebrows move. They're part of that movement, okay? So your eyebrows could be, you know, up here when you're surprised. They could be down here when you're upset or whatever. But generally when you're relaxed, they kind of sit right about here, okay? Just kind of right over, following that curve of the eyeball there. Okay, so we'll bring this down. We'll make this a little bit less crazy looking. There we go. There we go. Okay, so we're kind of getting like a face here, aren't we? Right? More side plane business right here. And the ears, this is so easy, so convenient. The ears sit right between, okay, the first and third thirds. Right there. That's it. Just right here. So you can just place an ear there. See that? It's in the middle third. Place another one right here. And there you have a pretty successful model of a head. Let's take a look at that. Now, let's take this and let's reduce it in opacity to 30%. You can still see it. We got a little ghost of it there, right? And I'm going to take my marker now. I'm going to go into my brush settings, and I'm going to increase the amount of opacity we're going to get with this here. There we go. Okay, good shape. And let's do this. We'll just trace over the lines that matter here. Like this. And here we have generic human head. Whoops, let's get that feeling better. There we go. Generic human head. It's like a magic trick every time it happens when you measure stuff out like this and draw it. It's always kind of magical to me that we can do this. Okay. And yeah, and there you go. What do you think, gang? How's that work? Pretty nicely, huh? All right, so there you have it. There is your generic human head. 1, 2, 1, 2, whoops, 1, 2. All right, mostly symmetrical all the way around. And we're looking at something that feels, you know, pretty good. All right, what do we do with this? Okay. We didn't even add any hair. We didn't do any of that business, right? Hairlines typically travel up and across to where there is a change, okay, just before the change in direction from the side plane of the head to as it starts to transition into the front plane, okay? So that's kind of where the hairline is going to sit. And it can do this. It can travel up and over like this to that little line we have for the hairline. It can, depending on your age, or let's see, you can go back this way, okay? Like a lot of men, you know, their hair starts to recede as they get older, and that can just keep on going, and sometimes nothing can be left. See that? Or, you know, you're gonna see like it just keeps on receding until you get some spots there, right? But what you don't want to do here, see how I've got this hairline coming in from the ear there, in and up like that. That's what we want. But you don't want this up and over. Okay, hair does not do that. All right, so that's a common mistake I see, is that hair that like hugs the contour of the outer part of the head there and just keeps on moving. Careful with that. That can look a little funky. All right, now do you always see that? No, because somebody could have hair that does this, right? So you're not going to know what's going on under there. The most important thing, though, is that you've done something structurally. You got to give that hair something to sit on. So you've given enough room at the top there for the cranium, okay? And you've set the eyes low enough and all that stuff, given room for there to be a forehead and all that business, right? And then I could do like that. And all of a sudden you've got a sort of a specific kind of person here, right? Just like that. So we just did something that was very sort of general, and then we made it more specific without too much extra work. Okay, there you go. So there's a head drawn based on those simple measurements we did, okay? Now, of course, everything we're doing is facing straight on and all that business. But if I have this character and I'm thinking about having a profile and all that, right? Why don't we just look at that for a second? All right, so here's our total height right here. And I want you to notice how all this stuff lines up so nicely because, you know, after all, it's the same subject matter. We're not drawing something different here. It's still a human head, right? Where was that top of the cranium? There it was. I don't want to make that too high there. All right, so if we've done our job here, where'd I go from here? Top of the cranium there, bottom of the jaw there, and the hairline was about, where was it? About here? Is that right? Something like that. What we should wind up with is, of course, third number 1, third number 2, third number 3. Uno, dos, trois. Okay? And what do we do with this information? Well, now you just can fit things in for the profile. Remembering that we started with a circle, right? Now with the Loomis method, you can do that again if you want. We know that that circle is going to sit up here, okay, in this first, in the first 2/3. That was that roughly how we did it? No, it was bigger than that. Sorry, hold on a second. It was like this, more or less. I think that feels more right because we have to have that square sitting inside of it. Remember? Yeah. So that's a lot closer right there. All right, but you got your circle. Get rid of that square for a second. And then what you do is, as the circle comes over here, okay, we just drop it after it gets here to this middle line here. Okay, make sure I get that low enough. When it gets to that middle line, you just drop it down, okay, to that jaw right there. And then when you bisect it, okay, vertically, that's actually going to represent where the jawline is going to meet the head from the profile. Okie dokie. Hey, Elizabeth Mock, nice to see you. Maybe I could post a list of my favorite drawing resources somewhere. I made a couple tweets about that, Wade. I should point, if I go to Twitter after this, I'll try and find that tweet and retweet it for you. But the list I had given for stuff like this was like Drawing Comics the Marvel Way, the Andrew Loomis books, definitely the Michael Hampton book. The book that came out about a year ago was very controversial because there was what some people judge to be like racist imagery in it. But in my opinion, if 99% of the book is full of like amazing information, it's probably still worth looking at and learning from. It was that Korean book that came out, Stone House, I think, Anatomy. That book is truly amazing. Yes, there are some questionable depictions of folks in there, but as far as the anatomy part goes, it's pretty great, I think. Was another book, shoot, I listed a book, Drawn, it was a Disney animator's book, Drawn to Life, I think. It was a 2-part series. Sketches from life drawing sessions from the Disney animators, mostly about gesture and things like that. It was wonderful. There's a book about ink rendering by Arthur Gupton publishing book. Having a hard time remembering it, but Watson Gupton, is that the publisher? Rendering in pen and ink or something like that. It's like kind of like a just amazing, chock full of information. Anything you can find resource-wise, whether it's published or not, anything with Nathan Fowkes talking about figure drawing and the head, especially talking about the head, Nathan Fowkes. And any online stuff you see with Jeff Watts, the Watts Atelier, Stan Proco, great instructional stuff. There's so much out there, so much good stuff. So returning to this, you bisect it here, and then the cool thing is you can use this middle third here. Remember this middle third where you have your brow ridge and bottom of the nose? You can just from here start drawing the ear. Okay, so the key to remember is this is where the ear starts and moves backwards from there. Okay, just remember that that's what we're doing here. That we're not putting the ear in the center of that line. We're starting the ear from there and moving back towards the back of the head. That's an important detail. All right, but so we got our guy here, and really everything just lines up, okay? The only thing I have to remember is to set the eye back, right? Look at any of your friends and family, look at them in profile and see where the eyeball actually is. Okay, it's not sitting up here towards the front, right? It's back there in that ocular cavity, right? So just remember that. But then, yeah, I can throw that eye in there. There's his eyebrow right there. It's gonna wrap around right there. That nose, I've got a little break right here. Okay, that's this section we call the keystone right here. that section right here, and then I can just bring that bridge of the nose out. Okay, I can even like line up the ball of the nose if I want. Get that just right. Okay, and then out we go, and there's this mustachio. Okay, and there's that mouth, and there's that jaw right there. And up we go, and his hair is like doing all this business, right? In front of, it's falling all over the place and doing its thing. Made his ears a little big, maybe a little smaller. But yeah, there he is from the side. Okay, and then from here we go side this way. And this is a key to remember, is that right about here under the ear is where the neck is going to meet the head. Could even be a little lower than that, could be about here, but that's kind of roughly about where I usually think about it. Is kind of right there under the nose there. That middle third is where you want to think about that happening. Okay, so you don't get popsicle neck, right? So that's going to come out like this. Okay, and then from here we go like that. Okay, notice the angle here. All right, that's importante. And there we go. So there's our guy from the side. Okay. All right, now you don't need this like super crazy line work everywhere. You can start to finesse and erase things away that we don't need. But you see how that works, right? From the profile. Isn't that nice? How convenient. How convenient. All right, so I promised you we'd talk a little bit about a three-dimensional model, right? So let's look at that. Earlier, we were doing all this business here, right? Planes and all that, thinking about a box and all that kind of stuff. So how do we want to think about this in terms of just like the simplest possible model? So we talked about the box. Here's what I want you to think about, okay? This. I'll just draw the box here for you at an angle. Like so, okay? Alrighty, now. Let's do our center line here. Okay, whoops, not there. And our center line here. All right, here's what I want you to think about. Remember how we have our thirds? Now that we know about all this stuff, this is so convenient to know about this stuff. Got 1/3 here, whoops, and a third here, more or less. Okay, and the lower third. And I just want to say something quickly. If you're ever going to exaggerate any third, the lower third is usually a good one to do it with. But here's a really simple model of the head. We take a box, okay? We've got our thirds here. Whoops, not really very 30 there, but good enough. And I want you to think about just doing this. We're going from the top to the bottom, and I didn't do my thirds from the hairline. Sorry about that. That's why it doesn't make any sense. But that's okay. General idea is from the top to the bottom here, right? That middle third, we're just gonna imagine that there's kind of like a little sort of a scoop. Sorry. A scoop that goes from the brow, okay, to just under that center line. A little scoop like this. So imagine you're just kind of like cutting out a little chunk right there. So this whole area here is recessed. All right? And then where you have this stuff that's still intact, okay, it hasn't been scooped out, I want you to do this. You're just going to have a nice triangle sitting out here and connecting back to the bottom of that second third there, right? So that becomes the basic model there. And the reason we do this is just to give ourselves a nice, I'm trying to clean this up for you, a nice kind of a simple model of the three-dimensional head. All right, so if I were to take that and just reduce it just a hair, we only have a minute left. I'm going to quickly do this, but just over this in general, okay? If I do this, right? You can see how that all works out nicely, okay? And you've got your side planes and all your other business. And that's a nice little 3D model of a head for you. There you go, gang. Wish I had more time. We'll do a little follow-up for this. What is that? How's that grab you? Okay. Have a great weekend. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Thanks for hanging out with me for a little while. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. And remember, please, to be kind. And I'll say ciao for now. See you next time.